now
Thanks,
for more reaction here in Canberra. We've got Labor frontbencher, the Shadow Communications Minister, Jason Clare. Jason, Clare, good morning to you. In your portfolio, I guess the fact that the Australia network has been axed as expected, that didn't really come as much of a surprise in terms of the ABC, did it?
Well, it's another broken promise. This budget was full of broken promises. I'd call it a house of cards. It's built on lies. It's not just the Australia network or the ABC or SBS that's been cut. Tony Abbott promised no cuts to education. He's cut education by $30 billion. He promised no cuts to health. He's cut health by $50 billion. He promised no changes to the pension. Well, he's effectively cut the pension, and he promised no cuts to the ABC or SBS, and he's cut the ABC and SBS. This is an issue of trust, Kieran. He's broken all these promises.
Well, he hasn't cut the pension, has he? Because the suggested change of indexing it to inflation as opposed to average weekly wages, that's not going to come in until 2017, so there's an election between now
Well, he's booked it. It's in the budget. It's in the forward estimates.
From 2017, after the election.
But it's in the budget. It determines what the numbers say. And as Seniors Australia told you this morning, it's a cut in real terms. If we had done this 4 years ago, then a pensioner today would have $1,500 less a year. Now, pensioners don't get a lot of money, about $20,000 a year. By doing this, it means about $1,500 less a year for Australian pensioners. That is a cruel and unfair cut.
On the issue of the GP copayment, I spoke to the Treasurer. He pointed out that there are various safety nets, including the fact that it only applies for the first 10 visits, that beyond that it's free. So is that a modest contribution that should be made to make the whole thing sustainable?
Well, Kieran, it means sick people are going to get sicker. It's not what I'm saying, it's what doctors are saying. They're saying to me, to others, that people will put off going to the doctor and the risk of getting sicker. And where this will hit hardest is in Western Sydney. The top 10 electorates right across the country for bulk billing are in Western Sydney. In my electorate, 98% of people, when they go to the doctor, are bulk billed. That means almost all of those people are going to have to cough up when they go to the doctor. So it's going to hit hard, and it'll hit hardest in Western Sydney, the place where Tony Abbott said he was the champion. They're the ones that are going to cop this the hardest.
Well, Western Sydney is going to benefit from a big chunk of the infrastructure spend. Surely you'd welcome that.
Well, this is a bit of a three-card trick. He's cutting money for public transport to put it into roads, jacking up a petrol tax, and people that have to travel the furthest are going to have to pay the most. And a lot of people in Western Sydney have to use their cars, so they're going to cop this increased petrol tax. It's a bit like a tradie tax, because tradesmen out there that have to use their ute or their car to get to work are going to have to pay the petrol tax, and then they're going to have to work now until they're a cripple. So Tony Abbott has targeted the people that have supported him in the last election. I think they'll be very upset with these broken promises.
Well, you're saying work until someone's a cripple, but I mean, the argument is that people, with the support of the $10,000 bonus for employers to help people move into various other jobs, that's the way we've got to think about the workforce now, according to the Treasurer and the government. That's part of the thinking, isn't it? That,
Kieran,
we've got a plan for an ageing population.
Do you really think that's going to work? Cultural change is hard, and as Chris Bowen said this morning, no one else in the OECD is doing this. They're trying to do this faster than the Commission of Audit said, and effectively what you're doing is you're telling people work until you drop. And for people who do hard jobs, on the tools, tradesmen out there, I think this is just unfair and bad policy.
Is there anything in the budget that you like?
Well, I think the border force that they're putting in place is a good idea. I wish I'd thought of it. In fact, I did think of it. I announced it in July last year. It was the first stage of reform to customs. I also said...
So you were going to implement, if Labor was still in office, a border force, bringing the customs into the immigration department?
Well, I announced the border force in July, and I said the next stage of that is one badge at the border, bringing together all of the agencies who provide border protection at the airport and the ports into one agency. I said that was stage 2. Scott Morrison's doing that now, and I congratulate him for it. There's a lot of things the government's doing that are ripping up the things that we did as a government. I'm glad that the government has seen the wisdom of this policy and is implementing.
Jason Clare, appreciate your time.
Thank you.
That's all for AIM Agenda this morning. Thanks for your company. We'll have more on Budget 2014 after